At the end of Season 9, we completed Japan, which means now we were looking to fill our trophy cabinet in Australia, China, or the AFC Champions League Two. That meant that now it was time to resign from our position with Hiroshima. But at the moment, there was really only one job available that would be of interest to us. So I applied for the position at Gwangju Mighty Lions. Soon afterwards, the Gwangju Mighty Lions offered us a job interview. And after a successful interview, we ended up getting the job offer, which means that moving into Season 10, we would be heading to China. Alright, the Glory Hunter Challenge has taken us to China, and we are with the Mighty Lions. I also just Googled how to pronounce the city. So I believe it is Zhangzhou. So I believe I was mispronouncing it in the introduction here. But I'm probably just going to go with the Mighty Lions because I'm not 100% sure of that pronunciation. And I don't want to completely butcher it throughout this whole episode. So I'm going with the Mighty Lions. So this was the table at the end of last season. So we finished in 5th last season and did not make any sort of continental competition. So we don't have any shot at even going at the Champions League 2 at this point. But looking at the season preview, they were actually expected to finish 7th. Why did they fire their head coach? Yeah, their head coach was fired at the end of the season in November. I don't really understand that. He did well, did he not? They must have had significantly higher ambitions, but they look like they had a pretty decent season. And then the Chinese Super League runs from April, the middle of April through the beginning of November. So it's a pretty short season from the looks of it, which means we have a really long off season to work through here. Well, the first order of business is going to be looking at the squad here. And actually, let's go to the competitions and look at the foreign player rule. So squad must have no more than 5 foreign players. I wonder if that's with the squad registration too. Looks like here are 5. Yeah, here's our 5 foreign players. So it must be including the squad registration that we have 5 foreign players. But overall, our foreign players are heavily centered around the center of defense. So we have an attacking mid here, Oscar Barrios. And we have left mid in Mateo Gonzalez, who this guy does not, well, he could be meta. He might have great physicals and he could be meta, but he might be a player that we look to replace. But we have a lot of center backs. Antonio Cesa here, he's a Chilean. He's a bit slow here. I don't really know if we need Antonio Cesa. Marcel Ratnick, this is a player. Yeah, I tried to sign him while he was in Slovenia. This was a player I looked at for maybe Hiroshima. I think it was Hiroshima. But he is pretty good, actually, for this level. For this level, he's going to be a very good center back. One we definitely want to keep. But Dmitry Spasic here, he's also very good. Maybe better, less well-rounded than Ratnick, but definitely better as far as just the defending attributes are concerned. He's a little bit younger as well. But it looks like Oscar, he's listed. Why is Oscar Barrios? He is listed. So he is, I don't understand, why is he listed for £1 million? We're going to immediately, hold on, we're going to transfer status, no status, set that, confirm. Yeah, and his value immediately, why is he listed? He's so good. For this, dribbling, first touch, technique, vision, he's going to be attacking mid or an advanced playmaker. I mean, we are absolutely, this is the guy we're going to build around this season. So with that in mind, my initial thoughts on tactics are going to be something like this, maybe a 4-2-3-1. If we do a little quick pick here, pick without restriction, pick best 11. I mean, Mateo Gonzalez here, actually maybe something, just because that's his best position, maybe it'll be something more like that. Actually, though, with the foreign player code, are there any specific domestic players that we definitely want to play around? So Jinjae here, he's pretty good. Again, this isn't a great team. Honestly, looking at this squad here, Hujin here, he's a defender. Okay, we definitely want to improve this team. There's going to be a lot of work done in the offseason here. And Wang Jiayu here, he's got the most potential. He's just okay. Yeah, we're going to need to do a lot of work in the transfer window here because I don't think this team is very good. I can see why this team was maybe expected to finish around mid-table. I'm going to be real with you guys. I think we can challenge for the league this year. We have a lot of transfer. This is the most transfer budget we have had to work with, and a huge payroll. I mean, the payroll's like, we have about £400,000 in the payroll and 17, almost 18 million pounds to work with. This is the most money we've had by far. And the way that I think most of the chair people are in the Chinese Super League, like, they're just going to keep funneling money into the club. So we should be able to spend to our heart's content. I mean, as far as transfer windows are concerned, this should be the most fun. Looks like we also have some clauses we can sell too, just to be able to increase our transfer budget here. I mean, here, 407K, we can sell that one for 58K, 69K. Yeah, this one's 2.5 million. We can definitely even up our transfer budget even more. But anyways, we're currently in December, right at the end of the previous season. So I'm going to go to the beginning of season 10. We're going to work our way through the transfer window, and let's make some signings, and we're going to completely overhaul this squad. All right, we're at the end of the transfer window. Really interesting in the Chinese Super League. So the transfer window ends here February 28th, but the season doesn't start until April. So there is I mean, we haven't even started playing preseason friendlies yet. So the offseason in the Chinese Super League is really interesting. But as you guys can see here from our squad, it looks a lot different than it did at the end of last season. We've made a lot of signings. But I do want to talk about some of the players we sold, because we actually saw some of them towards the end of last season. The big sale here, we have sold Mateo Gonzalez. He was one of the foreign players. I'm not too high on him, so I've decided to sell him. He's gone back to Argentina with Newell's Old Boys. We've also sold Dimitri Spasic. He was a player that we saw and kind of looked at to potentially build our defense around, but we got £3 million for him from Beijing. And I wanted to sell him because it opened up another foreign player spot for us. In my continuing effort to get rid of the foreign players and overhaul that, we've sold Antonio Sessa here, also to Beijing, so Beijing could end up having a pretty good defense. But I just didn't like his pace was only 10. Wasn't a huge fan of that, so felt like we could get rid of him. We've also sold some of our Chinese players as well. Like, we sold Zhao Lijun here for £1.9 million, which I thought was an absolute coup, because I look at him and I don't think he's very good. We had our young goalkeeper here, Luo Huang, and again, I mean, do you guys look at him and think he's a good goalkeeper? Maybe just because he's Chinese, but we got $4.3 million for him. I just don't think he's a very good player, but we sold him for good money. And our last big sale here was Wang Xiaoyu. Again, I don't think he's very good. Maybe for this level he's good, but £1.2 million for him. And again, this allowed us to spend a lot more money. So as far as players we've brought in here, I think we've done a really good job. And I have some interesting thoughts for how I want to play this season. Because I think with the squad that we have, we can play in a really interesting way. The main focus of where I have brought players in has definitely been the forward positions. At the end of last season, they pretty much had no real good recognized strikers, and we have changed that significantly. We have brought in Papa Torre here. This guy, I expect to be the star player for this team. 17 pace, brilliant acceleration and agility, and great off the ball. The combination of acceleration, pace, and agility is going to be deadly for this team. And then we have good dribbling, finishing, first touch, a solid holy trinity there. I expect Pape Torre to be the top goal scorer in the Chinese Super League, and for it to not even really be that close. But alongside him, we have Luis Enriquez, an absolutely wonderful forward. Dribbling, first touch, and finishing are brilliant. Good composure, but again, 15 pace, 15 acceleration, 14 off the ball, which for this level is excellent. We have two really phenomenal strikers at our club. And playing alongside those other two could be a player, Zhang Jie here. So he's a young 19-year-old Chinese forward who, when we look at his coach report here, they think he's going to improve quite a bit. And last season, he was at Beijing, didn't play a whole lot, didn't score a lot of goals, but I think we can change that. I think he has some of the pieces here to be a really good player. especially considering we've got 15 jumping reach, 13 finishing, and if we can just improve his heading at this level, I think those attributes are really good. So I think we can get him in a number of mismatches as far as jumping reach is concerned, and he's a player who could score quite a few goals for us. So with those three forwards in mind, we're going with essentially an all-out attack formation this season. We're going three forwards up top, and we're going to play a 4-3-3, a very narrow 4-3-3 with two fullbacks on attack getting up and down, two center mids on attack getting in behind, and we're essentially, and then just a ball-winning midfielder on defend here, we're essentially going with an all-out attack formation, and I think we have a good enough team to be able to make this work. In addition to these three forwards, who I think are going to score goals in spades, I mean, these three forwards are brilliant. Enriquez in particular and Torre in particular are just absolutely brilliant. But I did say we wanted to build around Barrios, but we're not playing him as an advanced playmaker anymore. He's going to go into a central midfield on attack role. He's going to play in center mid, and I think it'll work really well. Alongside him, we have Li Chao here, who is a 24-year-old Chinese player who we've brought domestically, but I think he's going to be a really good center mid on attack. He's got okay pace for this level, but good vision, good passing, so I think he'll do well going forward. We did need a defensive player, so Zhang Juefeng here is the best defensive player that I could find. Honestly, the main reason why I like him, good pace and pretty good stamina for this level. So even though he doesn't have much else, he should be able to get around the pitch very well. There will be a lot of pressure on our fullbacks to provide width and also be a source of attack. But fortunately, Hu Xin here has good stamina, good tackling, and for this level, honestly, that's pretty good crossing. And then on the opposite side, Lu Qingru here also has really good stamina. So those two players with good stamina should be able to bomb up and down the field and should be able to play most of the matches. And then, given that we have so many players on an attacking duty, we need two real good center backs. So they are Marcel Ratnik, who we saw earlier, who for this level is amazing. And then we have signed Dimitar Ivanov, who I think is a good replacement for players like Sesa and Spacich from earlier. I think he's a much better player, good jumping reach, pretty good pace and strength for this level. I think his all-around attributes are a little bit better than the foreign players we saw before. So that is going to be the squad for this season. We're going with a little bit of a crazier tactic. It's definitely an all-out attack type tactic. It's going to be really going for just, we're going to score more goals than you type stuff. But I think our squad is so good. I think we've overhauled the squad really well. And I think between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 foreign players here, they're all going to start. They're all within the spine of the team. I mean, we essentially only have a spine of the team. But I think this is going to be a good tactic for us. As far as the trophies we're going for in this Glory Hunter Challenge, it's going to be the Chinese Super League and the Chinese FA Cup. And to be honest, the expectations aren't too high. We're just looking for a top half finish in the league. We just have to reach the quarterfinal of the Chinese FA Cup. And looking at our squad, I think we're definitely going to be able to do that. All right. But we are at the end of the transfer window. I'm going to play through the preseason. I'm going to play through the season. And we will come back sometime in November to see how we did. And we are at the conclusion of season 10. And we absolutely dominated the Chinese Super League this year. 27 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses in just 30 matches. And we are far and away the team to win the title. Honestly, it was never really close. We were the dominant force. And we won the title fairly easily. Unfortunately, though, we could not complete China this year for the Glory Hunter Challenge. We absolutely destroyed in the Chinese Super League, but we got knocked out in the semifinal of the Chinese FA Cup. So we did manage to lose at home. Again, we play a very attacking tactic, so we did allow a lot of goals. And unfortunately, this time we couldn't score enough, but we lost to Zhejiang 5-2 in the semifinal, but it happens. Honestly, I'm delighted with how this season went, and there were some really interesting things to happen this season. Notably, Luis Enrique's only had 14 goals this season, but Papa Torre, 30 goals in the Chinese Super League, and our young Chinese forward Zhang Jie, 25 goals. So Luis Enriquez was injured for parts of the season, but he didn't play brilliantly. But I think that was down to the tactic and him being in the center of the three. So as you can see here, he got 14 goals, which is still a really good total. But it just seemed like with the tactic, Zhang Jie and Papa Torre were just consistently the ones getting the chances. And as you guys can see here, 31 goals in 30 matches for Torre and 28 goals in 31 matches for Zhang Jie. Just a really good season from our front three. Other players who did really well, Oscar Barrios had a good season, 9 goals and 11 assists there. Li Jipeng here, 16 assists. He ended up being the one to play most of our matches from left back. So that fullback on attack role just seemed to be working really well. On the other side, Hushin, 13 assists again as that fullback on attack. So that fullback on attack role is working really, really well in this tactic. So we definitely have a lot to look forward to moving into next season here. As you guys can see, everything just seemed to be working really well. And I do feel like, we obviously lost in the FA Cup, but I just feel like with how good this team is and as we continue to improve the squad, this should be inevitable at some point. But moving into next season, so we just concluded season 10. We are now into the second half of the Glory Hunter Challenge, moving into season 11. And if we can win the Chinese FA Cup, we're going to be in an amazing position to be able to complete the Glory Hunter Asia Challenge. And for next season, we have £300,000 in the payroll, and we've got £10 million in transfer budget to spend. We're going to be able to improve the squad even more. I really do feel like it's inevitable that we're going to win the Chinese FA Cup, and then we'll be able to move on to Australia and the Asian Champions League Two. Yeah, again, we're on November 1st at the moment, so I've got to play through the off season, which is quite long. They have a lot. It's almost like it's like 5 months the off season is. So I'm going to play through the transfer window here. Once the transfer window gets going, we're going to make some signings. We're going to improve this squad massively. And then I'll see you all at the beginning of next season. So I'm only about 2 months forward at this point. We're only in January. We are still 3 months away from the beginning of next season. And we're still a little over a month away from the end of the Chinese Super League transfer window. And at this point, I've only really made one major signing, and it is Randy Manti. I think that's his name. But the 24-year-old Ghanaian center back is absolutely amazing. He's a huge upgrade in the center back position, but 17 jumping reach, 16 heading, and 16 tackling. And these are the kind of players we are looking to upgrade our squad with. And we currently have a bid in the works as well. If you guys remember, Eduard Benitez, he was a player that we signed at Hiroshima. And I'm looking to bring him to the Chinese Super League as well to play in that central midfield role because I think he's actually better than Oscar Barrios. He's also a model professional, which I think is great for the team. But we have a few players here who we're looking at bringing in. But I've come back at this point specifically because Jeonbuk have offered us a job interview. So I initially dismissed this job interview just looking at it. But because they offered a job interview, I decided to take a closer look at them. And this might actually be a job that we want to take. So last season, Jeonbuk fired their previous head coach because they finished in 4th place in the K-League. And the thing is, about finishing 4th place in the K-League, the team that finishes 4th place in the K-League makes it into the Asian Champions League Two. So being with Jeonbuk, the Asian Champions League 2 is going to be the most difficult trophy for us to try and achieve. This could be our chance to win the Asian Champions League 2. Now, the problem is, I'm actually not 100% certain, though, that Jeonbuk are in the Asian Champions League 2. So when I go to their competition screen here, they're in the K-League and the AFC Super Cup. When I go look at their general, they do not currently have a continental competition on here. And the reason that I'm not sure if Jeonbuk actually is in the Asian Champions League Two is because if we go to last season, they were in the AFC Champions League Two, and they actually won it. And the thing about the Champions League is, at least I'm pretty sure if you win the Champions League 2, I'm pretty sure you qualify for the Champions League Elite. But the problem is, I'm not sure. I can't find it in the rules here. I think that the winners of the Champions League 2 qualify for the Champions Elite. But I can't find it. So I actually don't know if Jeonbuk are in the Champions League 2. So I am going to do the job interview here, and maybe I'll get some clues in the job interview. But I don't know if we should stay at the Cheongju Mighty Lions or if we should go to Jeonbuk, because the only reason we would go to Jeonbuk is to be in the Champions League 2. But currently, I'm not even 100% certain that they are in the Champions League 2. All right, I've completed the job interview. There was no mention of continental competition in the job interview. I genuinely have no idea. Well, we are about a week into the future, and as you guys can see in the message here, Jeonbuk have approached us to be their next head coach. And as you guys can see in this message here, the CZ Mighty Lions, they also want to keep us. This is Jeonbuk's schedule for next season, and the Champions League 2 is not anywhere to be seen on there. And it still doesn't show up in the competitions. I don't know if Jeonbuk are actually in the Champions League 2. The question is, do we play it safe and stay in the Chinese Super League when we're pretty certain that we're the best team in the league and we're almost definitely going to win the FA Cup at some point? We can just knock out China for certain and worry about the AFC Champions League 2 later. Or do we head to Jeonbuk and we may or may not be in the Champions League 2? We could end up wasting a season. But I mean, we could always come back to China. The clubs have so much money. We should be able to improve the team to be able to win the FA Cup at some point. Or we'll have to go to Australia. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't know what to do here. So I'm going to leave that decision to the next episode. At the end of season 10, we added the Chinese Super League to our trophy cabinet. But moving into season 11, we have some big decisions to make on where we go next.